Hello.
Hello. I'm really excited to talk about sort of cyber connection and meeting you through the digital world, never having met in person, and beginning this like podcast journey together.
Ditto. I couldn't have said that better.
It's crazy. It's crazy that you can like never have sat down with someone and still like be able to build and create with them. I feel like that's one of the values of these like technological spaces.
Exactly. I mean, there's something to be said and explored. Like, there's a lot of nuance and like, okay, we haven't met and sat at a table, but we have had, we've established a connection and a rapport through multiple forms of media
Yeah.
and forms of communication. And this is just another evolution of that. This is the beginning of the show.
Yeah, and I feel like as like we talk about digital wellness, digital well-being, ethical technology development, like this space, there's a wealth of information that comes from just like knowing someone through their digital and online presence, which I think is what you and I will probably take a deep dive into today.
Mm, yeah, exactly. It's really interesting to even start to think about that from the perspective of like you're interacting with what I project into
Yep.
social media. Like there's a version of myself that I'm putting out there that we're interacting with, and vice versa. I'm interacting with your projected social media self too. So like
Yeah.
it's kind of like there's several versions of us like in this conversation or
Yeah.
really in any interaction anywhere.
I feel like so for this conversation, the Queen of England just died.
Yeah,
It is September 8th of 2022.
yeah.
My name is Tracy McDowell, and your name is?
And my name is Adam Yasmin.
And Adam and I met through the Digital Wellness Institute, which is also where we're certified as digital wellness educators, and we both work as digital wellness coaches with people. My focus is really on digital feng shui because I've worked for about a decade as a feng shui consultant. And through that, I started noticing a big shift in people's well-being and overall balance with the introduction of smartphones and people putting televisions in their room, and really just started to wonder like what technology is doing to us. And so that's how I got into this space. How did you get into
Wow.
this space, Adam?
And I got into the space via mindfulness studies, particularly over a decade of Chinese tea culture studies and Taoist studies, and applying what I have learned and experienced into my everyday life. So my focus, as a digital wellness coach, is in really helping technologists slow the fuck down. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Slow
Yes.
down to embrace more humane experiences, shared experiences, like offering tea ceremonies in person, and have been doing so for well over a decade. And also to support other parents because I myself am a parent to a now 7-year old.
That's
So
such a
that's my
good
focus.
perspective to
Mm.
have. Yeah, because you really get to see how it's affecting a digital native. And so you and I are actually not digital natives, although I think we kind of grew up with technology. So we have a very specific lens on how it's affecting things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've seen really the biggest leaps in tech and sort of everyday tech evolution. I mean, I myself, just to keep it really transparent space, I am turning 39 in like just under a month. So I guess I'm in the elder millennial category.
Yeah.
And yeah, and not being a digital native or getting my first smartphone at the ripe old age of 25 puts me in an interesting category, I feel. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I love also like I hope in this podcast exploration that we get to juxtapose that. To me, I'm
Mm,
almost 30, and I like remember the first iPhone sort of going around school when I was in 10th grade.
hmm
I remember like my dad's first laptop when I
hmm
was 8 or 9. Um, and so I feel like we're really at like the two sides of that millennial spectrum.
hmm
And that'll give us a really interesting, I think, like good perspective on what's going on with the development of technology and sort of the best ways to do it more balanced and mindfully based on our, I would say, sort of more orthodox backgrounds. I feel like the things that you and I sort of like jumped away from this culture of like the hustle and like get it done, and we're instead like, how do we do things slowly? How do we do things with nature? How do we do things that like help our nervous systems relax?
100%. I agree. You know,
Yeah.
it's more and more people are beginning to see the value. It's weird to say that. See the value in like slowing down
Yeah.
and engaging in self care. I think uh, it took a global pandemic
I know.
and a complete transformation of our individual and collective digital experiences and like work experiences and shifting to remote work and remote school. And my daughter went through kindergarten online,
Wow.
and it took all of that to really begin to see that people are talking about self-care, slowing down, therapy, coaching, just like taking care of themselves, each other, the communities that we find ourselves in. And like, I feel like that is why a big reason of why you and I are here
Yes.
embarking on this together is because we, again, both individually, I look forward to supporting you in aspects of coaching just as well as vice versa, supporting
Yeah.
me in aspects of coaching when it comes to digital habits, but also like just from a larger perspective, like people do need to really take stock in their digital habits. Just like if we pay attention to the foods that we eat and
Mhm.
how we move our bodies and the relationships that we engage in, I mean, we
Yeah.
should also really take daily stock in how we relate to devices because
Totally. It's
there's
our
we're so
digital
it's
hygiene, we
exactly.
have like, I teach, so with digital feng shui, I teach a course called Digital Laundry, and one of the things that I just keep reiterating to people is, like, if you don't do your physical laundry, it builds up and it gets stinky and it becomes like a bigger, bigger, bigger problem. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. We know and have the habit drilled into us to like wash our sheets regularly, to like wash our underwear and our clothes regularly. But technology has developed so quickly that we haven't learned that those habits, they're not a part of something that anyone's teaching until quite recently, to like go through all your digital files and delete all of the thousands of emails you've never read, and check in on like in 2015, what did all your like desktop files look like, and do you need any of them anymore?
Yeah.
And so things like that are, I'm really excited because I think oftentimes when I listen to a podcast, it doesn't always feel actionable. And I'm hoping that what we can bring to the table is conversations where we are coaching each other in our areas of expertise to begin to get really actionable tools for moving forward. So you can hit me up and be like, hey, my email's getting really overwhelming. And that's something I specialize in. That's something I've coached a number of people on. And I can give you like those top 10 tools that help people feel less overwhelmed by their emails. And I think on the sort of flip side of that, I think, have a really good wealth of knowledge of what's going on with the development of tech and the articles that are coming out in the digital wellness and digital well-being space, and can help coach me sort of through like how tech is evolving and how to get in front of it being problematic, and instead focus on it as what you and I care about, which is like, how can technology be a positive? What are the tools that put the power back in our hands so that technology is a tool for us rather than us being a tool for these mega tech corporations that are like just using our data and basically selling us on using their platforms and creating for them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Couldn't have
that
said
was a
it
lot.
better. I mean, no. I mean, it's a lot, but it's important, and there's like nothing for me to add onto that. And I say that with joy. You know, um,
Well, I'm
it's an
excited because we already have so many ideas of what we want to talk about. And we've only been chatting for a day or two. And so to get back to that like idea of what I feel like is really interesting, you and I have never met face to face. Like, I hope that everyone who listens to this and as it grows, I'm getting chills. Like, as this podcast grows, like, we can be the friends that they have in their ear while they're cooking, while they're cleaning, while they're going on a walk, or while they're commuting to and from things, and really hold a container through our vulnerability of being willing to communicate and work with each other, that'll enhance their ability to like do everyday rituals that involve technology more mindfully and with a like a deeper sense of understanding of how it evolved to that.
exactly to really focus, to bring the focus back to embracing the tools that we have, using them more mindfully at a pace that I mean, at a unique pace
Yeah.
to our individual selves or our families or our partners, and our communities as well. Like, just to focus on like, these are powerful and positive tools. Obviously, there's always a shadow side to everything, and it's
Yeah.
important to be aware of all that. But to always work towards improving how we relate to the devices in the same way that your focus is on um, digital feng shui. I love how you mentioned digital laundry, you know,
Yeah.
and using such a basic and profound analogy of like physical laundry. It is really important for people to to listen in, to join in different levels, and um, to utilize the knowledge and their own experiences to make their lives better.
Definitely.
Mm.
And I hope that once this starts to pick up pace and grow, that people treat it almost as like a Dear Abby column and call in or write into us or want to be on the podcast and have us like in person or just responding to their questions, really explore how to be more centered, balanced, mindful in these digital spaces, but like really the most granular, like basic, useful, actionable tools that they can actually like walk away with, not being told like, oh, like there's smartphones and dumb phones like that's too big of a topic. Instead, like, hey, have you looked at your digital well-being app? Like, how many hours did you spend on Instagram or TikTok in the last week? What does it make you feel when you see that number? And like, how can we make that maybe feel a little bit better?
Exactly. I mean, even from the lens of emotional well-being, you know, just to notice how we feel about the experiences that we have, or the information that we take in. Again, it's all kind of all always comes back to like taking a quick pause, noticing what's happening, noticing what notifications you allow to come to invade your space, to to sort of claw at your attention. We're going to be going through so many big and small kinds of tools, mindsets, skills. Again, like, through the course of this whole experience, this whole show, we're going to be offering, um, through our own personal experiences, along with, you know, a foundational understanding of digital well-being, and to be able to do that not just through you and I conversing, but we're also going to be bringing, as you mentioned, um, listeners, if people want to call in, if they want to feel, if they're more comfortable sending a voice memo or sharing a question, they could send us questions and we can answer them in future episodes. We're also going to be interviewing experts in the field
Yeah.
and just doing, and then what you and I can do in this space, which is just, deep philosophical dives, which are, it kind of covers a broad spectrum, which is really great.
Yeah. I'm excited to help really solidify and define the language around cyber, digital, technological spaces because I
Mm,
feel like we lived the evolution of them coming to being. And so I often at parties or, dinners or just chatting with people will bring up the work that I do and they have a felt sense, like an understanding of words like information overwhelm or stress debt or like autoplay being a problem, but they don't have an actual definition. Like no one's ever really talked to them about these issues. These are just things that started happening in the last 15 years that we've all kind of accepted as being just part of our lives or like being part of always on culture. We know what that feels like to constantly be connected to our phone, to be overwhelmed by notifications and things. I'm really excited, Adam, to like look at each one of these sort of as like a digital wellness 101. Like
hmm
here's a term that exists, like the digital age. Did you know it existed? And would you like to hear more about it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there is a like an understated importance in taking these terms that people by now have probably seen in like headlines
Yeah.
or like clickbaity headlines. Like people, I don't think they really understood what doom scrolling was until like living through the last 2.5 years.
Oh yeah, the
You
pandemic
know,
definitely put doom scrolling on the map.
yeah,
I remember I posted a reel, like sort of, I think a year into the pandemic, about doom scrolling after some really heavy information came out, just reminding people that like you do not have to suss through like this really heavy content. Like in historically, we've never had this much access to bad news. If we think about like the medieval ages, bad news would have to be brought to you by a messenger, usually on horse. It would take them like time to get to you, then it would take time to spread from the person that announced it to like the head of whatever. Like it is so new to be able to just, watch a true crime documentary and see all of these really intense things. So, anyways, I just remember there was this big response to just announcing like this, naming it, being like the definition of what you're doing is like scrolling endlessly, like looking for some sort of answer that's never going to come. And that's doom scrolling, and you don't have to do it. And as soon as I named it, I felt like people took a big deep breath and kind of stopped doing it as often. At least the people I've DM'd with in Instagram and TikTok and so on.
exactly. Knowing what it means, right? Having an intellectual definition to it, knowing or checking in with yourself how it actually feels in my body,
Yeah,
right? Kind of helps create that boundary with the sort of mindless act of just scrolling, endlessly scrolling,
yeah.
and we do, we're not often enough, we don't look at these platforms, Instagram, for example, as like, this is just a never ending slot machine. You can just scroll
Yeah.
and you don't quite know what you're going to get. And um,
It's designed that way.
it is
I
it is intentional
constantly,
design.
I feel like the number one thing that I talk about as a digital wellness educator is something that Nir Eyal popularized with his book Hooked. I'd say like right at the beginning of sort of this like tech bro phase of the early 2000s, he was like the number one dude, and he would do talks on how to make habit forming technology. And since then, I think he's felt a little bad. He wrote a book. He also teaches at the Digital Wellness Institute, which is where I teach digital feng shui. He wrote a book called Indistractable
Hmm.
after 4 or 5 years of watching these apps that he helped popularize the habit forming concept of go big. But anyways, in short, the reason that we're addicted to these apps is because of the variable reward system you just mentioned. So we're first looking for like connection to the tribe. So if we're just going to use Instagram as an example, that is like other people liking your things or sending you a message. You're going to open Instagram because the tribe is communicating with you there and you want to be part of it, that community. Number two is the self. You're posting things about yourself, which makes you feel grand. All these things give you little dopamine hits, and that's what's creating the desire to go back on. You're looking for another dopamine hit. And this is really like scientifically researched and understood, this variable reward system. That's how they've designed slot machines. And then the third dopamine hit you're looking for, we've got the tribe, the self, and the hunt. And that's like these endless doom scrolling, bottomless bowls of information where at any moment you could scroll on like the funniest meme you've ever seen, or you could stumble upon like a best friend's wedding photo and be really, that would give you a dopamine hit. These are all the variable rewards that, just like a slot machine, are being fed to us almost at random to make sure that we like keep coming back and keep looking, keep hunting, keep engaging with the tribe, keep putting ourselves out there. That was a lot of information, Adam. What do you think of that? I get so stoked because I talk about this like way more than I think the average person.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty in again creating this space, this forum, this platform, whatever we want to call it, is that it is a space for people to engage in on whatever level they're comfortable with, whether it's, as you mentioned earlier, like any time we listen to podcasts, if we're in transit, if we're driving, if we're cooking, if we're on a walk. It's also good to just not listen to things as well and just enjoy being outside on a walk. But
Yeah.
but wherever you wherever you wherever you prioritize, listening to podcasts, like, we encourage you to do so with us, because it is going to be, a space with really important information.
Yeah,
And
like the hook
and
model. Like most people
exactly.
don't know that the majority of apps, social media apps that they're interacting with every day were designed by tech bros to be addictive, because if they're not addictive, then they don't get any revenue. Like you're not paying to use Instagram, the ad space, your attention is what's up for sale.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like just that fact alone is, like, for most people, like barely a year old.
Yeah, which is
And it's still,
fascinating.
yeah, yeah.
Because that's, to me, starting out in this space in like 2017, when everyone was like, oh, technology is bad. We should never give kids cell phones. Like there was just an emphasis on demonizing technology
Hmm.
back then, instead of going, how do we work with technology? How do we turn it back into that tool instead of us being the tool? I think that people are just waking up in 2022 to how much, especially these like social media spaces, are affecting us.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think our goal is to keep these like to like 30 minutes. So if
Hmm.
someone like me who has pretty severe ADHD wants to listen to it at double speed, it'll be 15 minutes. Um, and then you can binge a bunch of them. But
Yeah,
also I think for knowing that we work in a space that's aware of the attention economy and, the length of people's attentions, like I want to be mindful of people's time and attention.
uh-huh.
And yeah, we're at like 24 minutes. So we've got about 5, 6 minutes to tie things up.
Yeah,
And I know we talked about at the beginning wanting to discuss like these cyber relationships. I feel like I hope everyone who's listening can realize that Adam and I really connect like a lot over these topics, but we've still never met. And so I think that emphasizes for me the most important part of digital wellness, which is that, like, for the most part, this tech is really positive. This has brought people that care about the same things as me right up to my like screen where I can interact with them easily, effortlessly, almost any time of the day. And that the beauty of this technology is what we need to emphasize and explore more of. Emphasize.
exactly. I mean, the fact that there are other realms in which we can create things. There are on top of the physical realm. Like the creation of this show is like both a physical and an ethereal thing. And that to me, like it's really meaningful and profound to connect with a friend, a
Hmm.
colleague,
Hmm.
and and I'd been putting out there for I'd say maybe 6 months, kind of quietly. I don't really like trumpet a lot of my content out there anyway, but I was like, hey, if anyone wants to kind of dwell within these topics, to do so as a co-host, to be able to feed off of each other's energy to create something new, like please get in touch. And like you were one of the first people to, I think, respond to me because I probably put something out in Instagram and you responded to me in Instagram, and I was like, right, this is of course. There's no couldn't imagine someone else to really unpack not just the information, but like what your experiences, your personal experiences have been, and
Yeah.
where they intersect with mine, and where they're different, and where there's room for learning and for growth and for improvement and for like listening. To be able to like just listen is such a I don't take that for granted. That's really important to me as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to see this grow, and I think that the benefit of having two people that already sort of coach people in this space, coaching each other, is that the information isn't being like lectured at you.
Hmm.
We're all discovering it together. And to me, that's like the value of these cyberspaces, right? Like, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of them were created with weird intentions, right? Like Facebook was created to rate women at Harvard. And I feel like Instagram was created with sort of a similar idea of like outward beauty being something that we judge people by. But at the end of the day, human beings just want connection. And so I'm really excited that you and I have been able to connect on this topic, have similar, like really mindful, nature rooted practices, like your tea ceremonies and your background in Taoism and with feng shui and yoga, and that we can take that and put it into something that someone can really listen to, like a real organic conversation, and hopefully take
Hmm.
something away from it.
And exactly, and the fact that we will, as this evolves, and there will be, we'll figure out what the regularity of the program will be, whether it's weekly or monthly,
Yeah.
both, and but that we'll also be able to offer other forms of engagement and interaction beyond just this audio only space. Like there will be
Totally.
chances to gather as a community, as a group, as sort of like active participants, and not just beyond like passive
Yeah.
listening, and that really excites me as well.
It's such a good reminder to say that you're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast in New York. You're in LA.
Hmm.
And so our goal is to grow our like listenership and this audience into groups of people who want to meet like in real life in those major metropolitan areas
Hmm.
to get the help they need to build more community. And that we get to do that on two coasts, I think is so cool.
Exactly.
Amazing. All right. Well, I feel like we've done it. We've covered the bases for a first episode, and I would say like what to look out for, but I don't think we've chosen it yet. So you can look out for conversations on gamification. You can look out for conversations about doing kindergarten online. You can look
Yeah,
out for conversations about like this idea of the quantified self, like why do we trust statistics so much, and why are we like putting smartphones on our wrists, and um even just I felt like we could do a whole episode on everything Bo Burnham said in his special, like that song. It's like, mommy let you use her iPad, you were only two. Like we just have so many good jumping off points. This
yeah,
is kind of an endless discussion, and I'm really excited.
exactly. exactly. There's so much more. This is the proverbial breaking of the champagne bottle on the ship, right?
I
So
just, yeah, I
we
wish I
set
had a
course.
champagne bottle to pop right now. I don't know if I could make that noise with my
Maybe
mouth.
maybe that's the name of this episode. It's just a champagne emoji or some kind.
I love it. Yeah, because we're
Okay.
millennials, so we rely on those emojis for communication. So
Hey, they're
good.
useful. When
They're,
they're useful for
oh
sure.
yeah, they're there. Awesome. Okay, exactly 30 minutes. We did it.
We did it.
Awesome. Okay, do you want to stay on and chat, or do you want me to give you a phone call and we can end right now?
Um, maybe I'll end. Yeah, let's end the recording because I don't quite know how
Yeah, do that.
Anchor really works. Like, do they need to process the recording and then show up in the library? Why don't we jump to the phone?
Okay, cool. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Okay, bye.